Welcome back. This is the great KBC, and we are in the second hour of our live news program. That is News Check. Thank you so much for joining us. So remember, again, we are also on Twitter, on Facebook, and we are live from the broadcasting house in the county of Nairobi. We are looking at the state of the nation. What are the politics of the day? What are the socio-economic activities that have been shaping up the week? And joining me now on my immediate left, Engineer Chrispus Wathimba. Engineer is a principal consultant infrastructure projects and also a leadership and governance expert. Karibu sana, Engineer.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good to see you. It's been a while. And just next to him, we have Francis Mwangangi. He's a seasoned politician and also the Machakos County Deputy Governor. Bwana Mwangangi, karibu sana.
Asante. And thank you for the invite.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Yeah. On a light note, you wanted us to sit on the other side of the studio. You must be a football fan.
And I'm also a player. I like football. I play football. I was a member of Bunke FC. Yes. So, and it is a season of the World Cup, which is also the most famous sports extravaganza.
Live on KBC. Which team are you supporting?
Harambee Stars, and now that is not there. Any star from Africa.
All right, Engineer, are you a football fan? You should be.
I am a passive football fan, not very active one. But as I agree with him, I wish Harambee Stars was there.
Yeah.
And we look forward, maybe before the Hadis Hasla government is over, maybe 2026, Harambee Stars will make it.
All right.
So one of the deliverables they need to at least deliver is a win. Our appearance at a world stage football
and
tournament.
without being a prophet of doom, I wish those are wishes that those are horses.
I think
but because of the politics that we have in our football,
2022 has come with a lot of surprises.
Okay.
I mean, Ruto tried the first time and won it, so we can also try World Cup this time around.
All right.
Yes.
Live to the topic of the day. The GMO discussion just refuses to go on. And looking at what the High Court judge yesterday, Mugure Dande, did, is that she issued an injunction stopping the importation of the 10 million bags that the trade CS had talked about. And of course it has ruffled some quotas, and some people say yes, we do want a GMO, no we shouldn't. The ban was lifted by cabinet. There has been a lot of debate in terms of the GMO. Now the court pronounced itself and stopped that, and it's a good thing if you ask me, because farmers, and especially from the Rift, had talked about how are you going to be buying maize outside, yet we just almost harvesting ours. First of all, let's have our own maize bought by the government, and then the rest can come a little bit later. I would like to pick your mind on that, Engineer.
Two things that I see on this issue. Number one, probably the government was being coerced by certain forces to go the GMO way, but unfortunately they did not read the mood of the country. The country, yes, might be very hungry, but also may not be ready to be misused or become a dumping ground for GMOs and all that kind of stuff. But the other thing also, the government also is taking advantage of this story to blackmail the farmers, that if you don't sell your produce, then we will bring GMOs. So there is a bit of exploitation one way or another, where the farmers are refusing to sell their maize, while the government is looking at the issue here. If you don't sell, we are going to get GMOs. And also there are people who are taking advantage of trying to bring GMO to the region. If you look at the GMO story, many farmers outside Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda are concerned that if GMO comes to Kenya, it will find its way to their farms and it will affect the quality of produce they have. So the GMO issue is now being overshadowed by a lot of politics. Geopolitics also is coming into place, and we need to be very careful. We don't want to be a dumping ground for GMOs well, in other jurisdictions, we don't know how it is working for them. The conversation about GMO right now is mainly between politicians, the judiciary has come in, the church. Where are the experts? Where are the scientists? What are they saying about this whole issue about GMO? So we need to really have an in-depth conversation about GMOs before we really try and bring it here. I think we also need to look at hunger not just in the perspective of maize. We need to look at how do we cure hunger beyond maize. Can we look for other varieties of food that can be found within our continent or within our country that can be able to help us cure the issue of food? We cannot always believe that hunger or famine in this country, the only solution is maize. There must be other alternatives that we can be able to feed ourselves so that we don't deal with just one staple food. Yes.
That's an interesting way to look at it. The GMO and the maize debate just refuses to go on. But do you concur with what engineer talks about, that the politics surrounding the GMO? Mheshimiwa, I'm quite sure it's something that has also come on your table, being a leader in Machakos County.
Let me start it elsewhere. I think African continent, we need to stand up for ourselves. We should not be pinning, or rather, we should not be the field, the ground, the continent where anyone, any scientists who want to test anything, the place to look at is Africa. I think we need to be respected first. Number two is we have had enough. Remember, colonization took place in this continent by and large. Two, these politics of multinationals and the threats and the powers that they wield and how they push through their governments so that they can also coerce Africans into submitting, into agreeing into some of these things. I think it is high time anyone out there, being an Asian, being a European, being whatever the person is, it's good we understand, we breathe the same oxygen and we are all human beings. That said, I think the issue of GMO, we need that discussion. We have a 2010 constitution that says nothing for me without my input. Consult me on what you do. The fact that you are in an elective top position as a deputy governor does not give you a right to decide on what I deserve to do. So whoever is making that decision, I need to be consulted personally, and also Kenyans. I'm talking about public participation, public input, public engagement. It's very important. Finally, we have our scientists. We had an input in them, in educating them, in supporting them. Where are they? We need a discussion that is professionally led, not politically led.
It's a good thing that he has talked about not politically led. And leaders from the Western region had talked about, indeed, yes, we don't want GMOs. Our farmers are just harvesting. And we also need, is it the high time that we need to restructure how we do maize in the country? You know, NCPB, the farmer knows that after 100 bags or 50 bags or 10 bags I have, I can take to NCPB. When will it come to a point that the market forces could determine how maize is in the country? They sell directly to millers. Do you think maybe that would be a solution?
The farmers have still the option to sell to millers. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes millers take advantage of them and demand low prices, and therefore the government has to intervene through the National Produce and Cereals Board to be able to give farmers a better deal. And that's why you keep hearing in Northern Rift, they keep demanding, we want our maize to be bought at this price. But it's not that the millers or the brokers are not in place to buy that maize. at whatever price. Sometimes, if you look at agriculture all over the world, whether you go to India, Australia, France, even here in Africa, no farmer is able to get a substantial or good reward for his work. It's always a very difficult a balance between governments trying to feed its people and the farmers making the most from farming. So governments always have to come in between and be able to support. Unfortunately, in this country, that space that the government is supposed to help is occupied by cartels, who in this case are called millers, who in cases are politicians, who in this case are financiers or trade commodity financiers, who want to make the most out of this space between the farmer and the consumer. So unfortunately, our government is being misused by certain forces to take advantage of the huge demand capacity Kenya has for maize meal, and yet the ability to produce by farmer is limited. Maybe it's limited by the fact that the government is also not investing in terms of supporting the farmers. We have devolved farming to county governments. What are the county governments to helping in terms of empowering our farmers so they can produce as much? If you want your farmer not to produce 5 bags per acre to go to 20 bags per acre, then you must do something. Is it technology that you need to do that? Is it an issue of changing the kind of fertilizer we are using? Is it the kind of farm practices that we are applying that we need to adjust? So therefore, we need to look at the responsibility of government in failing farmers to be able to produce as much as they're required. And that space is now being exploited by cartels who want to insist that because our farmers cannot produce enough, then we have to go and import maize from wherever it is, whether it's a GMO country or not, but that space is what is being misused. We fell into the same trap with sugar. Now we are trying to fall in the same trap with maize. We cannot afford. And that's why I'm also saying we need also to stop just depending on maize. If you go to our neighboring countries in Uganda, even South Sudan here, which has no farming, they don't depend on maize all the time. They have other varieties.
So Uganda have bananas.
Yes, they have a lot of. If you look at the starch content in their food, it's not just about ugali. There are many varieties that they apply there. And therefore, we need to say, if we eat 5 days of ugali, can we eat maybe 1 day or 2? And the other days we replace with something else. So that this over-reliance on one kind of food is where we are being exploited. Majority of our population are young people. So we can be able to change their taste or their kind of food they want to eat. But we cannot always rely on one type of food. That's where we are being exploited. Milk is an area we are being exploited. Sugarcane, we are already in that
already
space.
Is a mess.
Yes. And even in alcohol, it's only a few players who are providing this space. So we need to be able to spread the variety so that many players can come in and we can have a variety of food.
And the GMO debate just refuses to go on, but for now we have to keep it aside and look at what Azimio talked about. You are elected on an Azimio ticket where the party leader, the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, talked about having consultative meetings, which the government interprets to be more or less like demonstrations in regards to IEBC, the 4 commissioners who Parliament are seeking to eject from IEBC. I would like to take your views on that.
You know, kindly allow me, I just make one comment on GMOs.
Okay.
The current God-given leadership in this country come from agricultural rich areas of this country. One of them, His Excellency the President, one time was a Minister for Agriculture. I remember the reforms that he brought. There is a paradox that makes me not to understand what is happening today, because food is rotting in central Kenya. North Rift food, a lot of maize is there. And on the other side of the country, northern part of the country and parts of eastern, people are literally even dying because of lack of food. I don't understand that kind of paradox. One, they have plenty. On the other side, they are lacking. And at the same time, we are saying we want to import. The question comes, are we valuing farmers from other countries more than the ones that we have. Secondly, why are we providing for markets for other countries' products at the expense of our own? Somewhere I read that at some point in this country, each area was known to grow what as far as agriculture was concerned. We knew which area was good for coffee, which area was good for animals, which area was good for tea and the likes. What are we doing? And engineer here has posted a question. What are our counties doing as far as mechanization of agriculture is concerned? The answer is very simple. We devolved services and functions, but money was left in Nairobi. That's why we have very strong ministries for water, very strong ministries for agriculture, very strong ministries for infrastructure and roads and transport, when most of the functions have since been devolved by the constitution, by Kenyans, by voting in a new constitution. Well, the new government, which is barely 3 months in office, has promised to devolve both functions and the money that remains with the national government. To your question of, you see, when those who made the decision to import the GMO, they just announced that we are importing. And what we hear is later we have given you 72 hours. Later, the minister in charge seems not to be knowing what is all this about, importation or not to import, and how much. Now, I think since it was just a ministerial announcement, maybe the former Prime Minister now wants to engage Kenyans and make them be part of the decision making. So maybe somebody in the government should also seize that opportunity and maybe engage the public in a different way.
But we know, Mheshimiwa, we know very well that some of these interactions do not end very well. We have fracas in the capital. We've seen them in the previous elections when we talk about Kenyans and we talk about Kamukunji grounds. It kind of evokes some memories that Kenyans would kind of want to put aside. And the president did tell, right, Honorable Prime Minister, yesterday that, yes, you guys follow the democratic way, more or less like a thin-veiled threat that you guys don't start the demonstrations.
No. There's something I want to tell you. As a government, if you are doing things wrongly, if you are not consulting the way you should, and the consulting here is involving the public through public participation way in your decision making, and somebody, a minister, wakes up and makes a decision that has a major implication in this country without consulting anybody. I am not sure even he had consulted the spouse when he pronounced himself. Which other option do you have? If it is demonstrations are provided for in the law. The only thing is because Kenyans pay taxes to county governments, to national government, it is for the responsibility of the government to provide the security. The problem we have seen in this country and most of the developing world is that because some people want to keep themselves into power and because they want to push through their agenda, whether you like it or not, we have seen they are the ones actually who cause some of these mayhems organized by their opponents. So because we are a democratic country, the only option that we have, and I don't support any form of interruptions of normal life of any Kenyan, but the only way is for those in power to do the right thing. and the right thing, please engage Kenyans. When you hear the church raise concern about GMOs, please retreat and do the right thing.
Okay, let's hear what engineer have to say on that, because I'm quite sure even if we today the government announces that from tomorrow we'll be having very peaceful demonstration, the police will be covering that and will ensure that nobody loses life or property. Do you think that is going to happen? Going back to our history, if at all we have to go to the streets because of maybe a few things like IEBC?
Let me tell you, I think people are forgetting, just recently in Eldoret, there were a few fracas. And it was just about people being told you cannot do business here, so you have to get out. You saw what happened. People went and ransacked supermarkets. So do you think this country is ready for any mass action activity, whether peaceful or not? We are not. People are hungry. We don't have food. We are not able to provide for ourselves. So I think we have just come from a very expensive elections. We have come from a very tense moments where we had to wait for a judicial pronouncement on who is president or not. We saw the scenes that bombers during the determination of that presidency. So the country is still not in a very calm state. But therefore, I would plead with the former Prime Minister. You have been the opposition leader. You have a very strong constituency. They have given you the mandate to be their voice. Marshal the elected leaders, have a conversation, because that's a responsibility you've been given. You're the people's representative. This business of public participation also is being exaggerated. You cannot say public participation requires every conversation is about a public rally. Public participation has to be organized. Meaning, you as elected leaders, you have a conversation. If you feel you're not agreeing as elected leaders, then go and consult other leaders at a lower level before you're now saying you're organizing mass action or public rally. Because you know, organizing public rally now is an opportunity for people to take advantage. We've seen how we have had challenges of security, people being mugged. So if you're telling me you're going to converge 20, 30,000 people here peacefully, elements of insecurity will find their way in. You don't know what will happen. So therefore, I don't think it is right now ready for us to have mass action. I want to agree with the president that it is not the right way to go. You've been elected, you've just earned 1 or 2 months salary. We see you working on that salary?
Yes.
Can we see you having a conversation? Can we see debates in parliament? Even if you fight in parliament, it's okay, but not in the streets. Okay. At least we'll know now those are our representatives. They are disagreeing.
Yes, and we are going to get back to this conversation, but my director informs me we have to get a break. But as well, I'm quite sure a lot of people would close business that day. Even if it's going to be peaceful, a lot of people will have the jitters.
And even the investors who are looking to come and do business with us, they'll take back. And for them, an investor who wants to bring $10 million here will take 2 years to consider that. If we start misbehaving right now, this is not the right time to start any mass action that will cause problems. The deputy governor here has inherited a government. He needs investors. He needs money in his county. I don't think he's ready for mass action.
Yes, and
there's something I want.
A World Cup break, and then we're gonna get back. And we'll also be tasking you on the county preparedness, because we have a lot of challenges, and drought is one of them. And also, your county has been named as one of the counties of the over 30 counties that also require food. What are some of the measures that you guys have taken? We're taking a quick break with engineer and Mheshimiwa Mwangangi, who is the deputy governor for Machakos County. Let's have that quick break, then we'll be right back. Welcome back. You are still watching News Check live from the broadcasting house here in the county of Nairobi. We are looking at the state of the nation, some of the politics and the socio-economic activities that have been transpiring in the last couple of days. And I'm joined by engineer Chrispus Wathimba, who is on my immediate left, and Honorable Francis Mwangangi, who is the Machakos County Deputy Governor. Before we had the break, we were looking at the politics of the day, and mostly on Azimio, from where you're affiliated politically, and you are talking about, when we were on the break, more or less like the CS overstepping his mandate, and the discussion is not there. That is why perhaps the former premier talked about having conversation now with people of which we know maybe they might or might not be peaceful.
First and foremost, I want to tell our viewers, nobody among us here wants to disrupt another's life. Nobody would wish to disrupt in any way our businesses. Some of us are business people, and we would wish we have a peaceful environment for businesses to thrive. But again, we are concerned. Barely 2.5 months since the new administration came to power, the manner in which some of the pronouncements are being made, we are concerned as a country. Whether you are a deputy governor, MCA, or a member of parliament, it is good to know that in this country we have a constitution, we have laws, we have something they call in international relations a rule of law, which each one of us should abide with, so that we can coexist harmoniously. Why would you have a minister travel somewhere in Ukambani and you make a pronouncement, you are bringing military, you are bringing police, and you are bringing anyone else to flatten and do away with some squatters? In your view, you think they are squatters. Without that tension is cooled, you are here at it again, talking about importation of GMOs. You ask yourself, the last time I checked, that particular minister was Minister for Trade. Which business do you have talking about land and chasing people away?
Okay.
Come at the GMO. We know you are Minister for Trade. Which business do you have talking about food importation, which is the purview of Minister for Agriculture?
That's what we are talking about.
And then, within a period of time, within hours, we are seeing a minister in the same government responsible for what is being pronounced by another minister, disowning, saying even he doesn't have figures, he doesn't even know what is all this about. You know, now, where do you leave the country? Politically, you could have won well the leadership of the country. But now you are giving a card to somebody else who ideally should be resting and waiting to face you in a future election to stand and say, wait a bit, what type of decision is this? One minister says this, causes animosity in the country, and even the church is against what he is pronouncing. And I really, I'm finding it difficult to believe that is the position of the government. I have difficulty.
There's a disconnect. Are you suggesting there might be a disconnect? In
yes, a big one. A big one.
Okay. And still on Azimio, and still on Azimio politics, engineer. Looking at, they are defending, more or less, they are defending the 4 commissioners who have, they have all less security of tenure because they have a 6-year term. And the court did pronounce itself, that is Apex Court, talked about, yes, there is a disconnect at the IEBC, and if at all we are going to another election, we should look at IEBC, shake it a little bit, but now Kenya Kwanza want to shake it completely and get these 4 commissioners out, and they are using parliament, where they have numbers. A few days ago, the Azimio leader, Raila Odinga, talked about how the Kenya Kwanza are digging deeper into his stronghold. More or less, could they even look for numbers? And if they have the numbers, they could exit the 4 commissioners.
What I'll tell you is just to add on what he's mentioned about government. The position of the Prime Secretary, Cabinet Secretary, was brought in place to help ministers coordinate better. And therefore, I would wish the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Mudavadi, to take advantage of this opportunity and coordinate the government better in terms of communication. Let him put his cabinet secretaries in check and tell them for any issue to be communicated, for you to make any pronouncement, can it be in a way that we as a government work in a coherent matter?
As a cabinet?
As a cabinet.
Because they are the ones who lifted the GMO.
A GMO position is a cabinet decision. A decision to import is a cabinet decision. A decision to kick out squatters from Machakos is a cabinet decision because it's affecting people. And therefore, the prime cabinet secretary has an opportunity to exercise his responsibility in that office that has been created to help in us Kenyans to appreciate that this government is working as one. Because the executive has to appear to act as one. And the other thing also, as we come to the issue of IEBC, Parliament is supposed to be an independent institution. And therefore, if there is a petition that has been brought by Kenyans, it has to be heard. It has go through the motions of being heard and recommendations made. If Azimio doesn't have the numbers in Parliament, they have to accept the decision of the many. But that is not the end of that decision. IBC commissioners will be subjected to a tribunal, and the tribunal will also make its own determination. They will be heard. So today, it's Parliament having their time. The tribunal will also have their time to make an independent decision, and then Kenyans will be able to make their own decision and say, truly, these people were being prosecuted for holding a genuine position or not. Because it could be the either way. Either maybe they are being used by Azimio, but they are being honest. Or maybe they were part of Azimio. We don't know. So even as Kenyans, we want to hear, we want to understand the intrigues that happened during that election, as all the other parties are suggesting. We want to hear. We are very curious. That's something we want to understand. Because also we don't want to be with commissioners who definitely their loyalty is on another side.
Honorable Mwangangi, you are from the Azimio divide, and the divide has accused Kenya Kwanza of digging deep into its supporters and also trying to lure some of the leaders from Azimio. I'd like to pick your mind on the same. First, it's democracy. Right?
Yes. First, just an inquiry. Is engineer a Kenyan?
Yes.
And if he is a Kenyan, has he just landed to Kenya this morning? Because from his talk, it is like he is forgetting so fast and just picks what is now moving forward.
By that you mean?
We did an election. After that election, the executive pronounced itself on a particular matter. What has followed is the route that the executive has been pronouncing itself about. That is not the law. That is not the law. The petitions in Parliament did not find themselves there. We believe, we have every belief that you cannot pronounce yourself on something and then actions follow towards that end.
But the petitions
and what we are saying is, you know, let me take you to counties. If you are elected today, just at the lowest level, at the ward level, as a member of county assembly, whether there were people who opposed you or those who supported you, you become the mother and the father of everyone for an inclusive development and leadership. In this case, the former Prime Minister and the current head of state competed in a presidential election. We have a president in place. We need to pray and support him so that he can deliver his agenda. But now, when his administrations acts in a manner that appears to be vengeful, appears to be revengeful, in a way, you must...
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
The fact that the four commissioners appeared to have a different position from the person that declared him the president does not mean they go the process that they are going through.
But that process, they are Kenyans who have taken those petitions to Parliament. They are Kenyans, not politicians.
What we need to agree on this table, before it was taken, there was certain pronouncements.
Now I get it.
Okay? Are you saying?
Yes,
like what I'm saying, if today,
yes,
the Mwangangi before being a deputy governor is a different Mwangangi once he is deputy governor. That is the point I'm putting across here. If I pronounce myself here, it means almost it is the voice of the Machakos County government, whether it is a perception, it is true or otherwise. Once you are elected as the deputy or chief cabinet secretary and you are in that office, you are different from the person who was campaigning out there. What I'm saying is the top leadership of this country should be bringing people together. When you try to be divisive and to push your agenda, then the other side will come into the aid.
Let me squeeze it a little bit. What you mean is that these petitions have government written all over them?
That is the perception, whether it is true or not true, because they have come after some people who had pronounced themselves and appear to be pushing for them. Okay? Now, these Kenyans, you are right, they have a right to take those petitions to parliament, but not after these public pronouncements have been meant consistently. And these commissioners have been meant to look like it is like they had no right to do what they did. Now, there is something else you need to understand about IEBC, and this is very important for viewers. This is like a reverie. Okay? We have political parties in this country who, by law, nominate candidates to go and run for political office. Now, the IEBC is the referee. The IEBC is supposed to be neutral, does not supposed to lean on any side. Now, when we see one side of political divide pushing for a certain agenda, we have everything to get worried. By the way, I can cite many countries that have gone that route and it doesn't end well. I can tell you, it doesn't end well. And this referee must be tried. If we are competing amongst the three of us or four of us here, we must have a referee that is trusted by each one of you. It is no longer about Raila Odinga. It is not about the president of this country. It is the neutrality of this organization called IEBC. Because immediately it appears that the IEBC is pro either government or that other side, it is a precipitate to something which is disastrous to the country. First, division. And many people will start now saying we are not a party to that. And as a country, that is dangerous. I'm concerned when you hear sections of this country start now talking talk like what we had sometimes back, Mombasa, Republican. It is like we are not party to this. Why? We have not been getting development. Our people are not appointed to key offices. Let me give you another example.
But Mheshimiwa, looking at IEBC itself, in as much as we wanted to be neutral, the court pronounced itself, that is the Supreme Court, and they ruled everything against the four who dissented the results that were announced. So, if at all you say that government could be seen that more or less like it's leaning on one side, what about the judiciary? That will bring in a lot of players who will be dragged into that mess, don't you think?
And I would also want Mheshimiwa to answer this perception question that many Kenyans have, is that a good number of Kenyans perceive the four commissioners to be also inclined to one side of the political divide, and therefore they do not exhibit the independence that they are supposed to perceive or to promise Kenyans. How do you respond to that?
Okay, it's very simple. That should have been dealt with in two ways. One, through there are agencies like NCIC. One, let me pronounce myself here that the four commissioners, if what they did it trying to side with one political divide, that in itself is a serious crime. NCIC should come in because that is dividing the country. Number two, we have investigative agencies in this country. They should get involved into matter, and if they are guilty, they found there is any crime that could have been committed in the process of doing this, let them face the law.
You don't support the parliament way?
No, number three, that's where I'm coming. I've been a parliamentarian, my friend. Parliament represents everybody, okay? But the fear of the what we are calling opposition is the minority in parliament. Even if they take the decision there, it will not amount to anything to them. That is why they decided to engage the public directly. And we know the consequences of that. So if you take a parliamentary route, let it not be politically motivated. Like the executive of this country pronouncing himself on a matter, and then you want to take it to parliament where he has absolute majority.
Okay. Yes. The petitions, so far as we know, the petitions have been taken there by Kenyans. And because of the interest of time, as we wind up, I would like to touch on the Hustler Fund. Tomorrow is the D-Day. Kenyans are waiting. And besides that, there's still some lingering questions in regards to the Hustler Fund as we wind up.
Well, I remember 3 weeks ago I told you here, the most important thing for the youth in this country is not to be appointed in government, but for the Hustler Fund to be realized so that they can become economically empowered, to be financial independent, so that come 2027, they can equally participate in shaping the destiny of this country politically when they were economically empowered. So I want to plead with the government that they put in regulations to make sure that the Hustler Fund is not prohibitive in terms of access to the youth, but also want to encourage young people and women, whoever will get access to this fund, please use it responsibly so that it can be able to transform your life and don't be trapped into use it for other things other than empowering yourself or making a change in your life.
Mheshimiwa, as we wind up, perhaps what you've done as Machakos County to mitigate some of the droughts?
You don't want me to comment about Hustler?
All right. I know you might tear it apart, but because of the interest of time, 10 seconds fine.
Okay. About Hustler, one, we know the countries that have pulled majority and millions out of poverty. If this Hustler Fund can be utilized well for that purpose, then I'm sure many Kenyans, men unemployed and well-educated Kenyans, can have a way out of the current economic challenges. So I think it is a good thing. We are waiting tomorrow. Let's wait. Let's not castigate.
And it's going to bring in some money into the economy.
I think so. I think so. But I have concerns. I'm not sure the concerns because they went everywhere doing public participation, and I don't know why they are failing to do the same. The way they did public participation for Hustler Fund, I'm not sure why they are not doing it for GMO. It is so simple. Okay. Now, about what we are doing in Machakos County, we have a water program. We are doing dams. We are also desilting the existing ones so that we can harvest as much water as possible during these ongoing rains. We are also urging our people to plant as many trees as possible to increase our vegetation cover and also to fight these climate change effects. Remember 20 years ago, almost 70% of this country was not as it is today. So these effects of climate change is as a result of deforestation. So we are urging our people during this rain season, please plant as many trees as possible. And another strategy we are using is also engaging the public. where you have somewhere we can do a dam and get Maram to do roads. Then we are also in collaboration with the public so that we can do also other dams for individuals, so that they can also grow food and increase food security in our country, our county.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I would love to engage you.
Thank you so much.
We have been speaking with engineer Chrispus Wathimba, who is a governance expert and also an infrastructure consultant. By the way, Mheshimiwa, engineer can help in those infrastructure projects that I've heard you talk about. And also Honorable Francis Mwangangi, a seasoned politician and also the Machakos County Deputy Governor. Thank you so much indeed for watching. Let's continue the conversation on social media. Now giving the baton to the Swahili desk with Kuruzi Mashinani and Tamrini. My name is Bentro Njue. Lucy Maura has been our sign language interpreter. Now we have Lensa Odingo as our sign language interpreter. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
It was too short.
Gentlemen, yes.